Um, sure. Go back to the other one. All right, we are live. Hey, what's up, everybody? How's it going? Scott from KingGold. Hey, everyone. I'm here with Mr. Brett Burge. Brett Burge is actually, I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure I've told you this before, but I'm going to say it again. Brett is actually one of my favorite people in the world because he's a super good guy, and you are not going to meet a better storyteller than Mr. Brett Burge. Brett, have you ever met a stranger?
7. Met 7 strangers. So
Wow, that's impressive. That's pretty good.
they weren't strangers for long though.
Right, right. Yeah, but no, Brett is so I've known Brett for a long time, and he's been in sales and in the sales gig for a long time. And sales is something that I think more people need to know about, and sales and marketing. So I'm learning a lot about the marketing piece, and Brett has a lot of experience with the sales piece. So that's why I wanted to have him on here tonight, so he can talk about the thing that he loves and he's passionate about. So Brett, why don't you give us a little background on you?
Yeah, man. Thanks for asking me to do this.
Yeah.
Background on me: born and raised in Denham. No surprise to anybody that knows me. Graduated high school, worked at a bank part-time, did landscaping, and was convinced I was going to do landscaping. Yeah, for the rest of my life. And then I grew 6 inches, and landscaping was no longer fun. When you're 6'4", you're bending over all day, every day. And so I went back to school, got a degree in business, all while still working at the bank and doing landscaping. And then once I graduated, the bank gave me a full-time job as a personal banker / loan officer. And man, I crushed my goals, and people are like, man, you need to be in sales. And I was like, okay. And I don't know what that means, but sure. And to me, it just means you are personable with people, and you build trust with them. And that's pretty much it. You keep your word and do what you say you're going to do, and everything else kind of irons itself out. And I went from the bank to selling. Go ahead.
Okay. So a lot of people, I mean, and this was actually me for a while. A lot of people have the idea of like the pushy salesman, or like the used car salesman, the car salesman, like the guy that's always trying to get.
Dealt with a used car salesman tonight. I bought a van about an hour before this video. So dealt with a used car salesman an hour
ago. Was he the stereotypical salesman, would you say, or was he more?
No, I didn't allow them to be. It was I haggled over the phone before I got there. It was all via text, and walked in and signed some papers and walked out. So it was actually probably the best experience I've ever had. Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. So how would you describe like your vision of sales to someone who is kind of, I guess, maybe on the negative side of sales, where like, oh, this guy just wants my money. Like, how would you make a rebuttal against that argument?
So salespeople in general are given a bad name because typically they're kind of labeled, whether it's mislabeled or not, is up to them, right? And what character that they've created in their own right. But most salespeople are, they're trying to sell me something, right? Which in turn means they're just trying to get my money. They're trying to make money.
Right.
And I just genuinely believe that I can make your life better with whatever it is that I've sold. So, when I was working at the bank, I believed that Capital One had the best checking account. It gave you points, it gave you miles, and you could use the miles and you could combine them with your credit card miles, and no other bank gave you miles for using your checking account and your debit card and your writing checks and ATM withdrawals. So it was very easy for me to believe that and be convicted about it. And the rest, again, just kind of came along with it. But I got paid for credit card applications. And if somebody came in and they were up to their eyeballs in debt and had credit cards maxed out, I told them, I'm not going to give you another credit card. And maybe that wasn't my decision to make, but I was like, look, somebody else can give you a credit card, but I'm definitely not going to be the guy that gives you a credit card. They weren't, and they don't know until now that I did that. But it's like, look, somebody else can give you rope to hang yourself, but it's not going to be me, And so I think really just starting out, I just kind of did what I thought anybody else should do. And so the people built rapport with me, and they knew that I was always trying to do what was best for them. And that continued on throughout my sales career, and it holds true now at Star. When I call building owners or business owners, I believe that I have what they need, and I am convicted about it when I sell it. And I think they can hear that and feel that. It's not me just selling you snake oil. It is something that I believe you've got to have, and you can't live without it. And
right.
So I guess coming back to your question, I think that's what separates a sleazy sales guy or typical used car salesman from somebody else is, are they just trying to get your money and sell you whatever you don't need, or do they believe that they can add value to your life and you can sense that and feel that?
Right. That's really good, man. While you were saying that, I think that's one of the biggest things is that, from one, to be successful in sales, you have to 100%, 110% believe that what you're offering to people is, what they need. It will enhance their life. It will bless their life. It will make their business better, their company better, whatever. And see, you're in a good spot because you are in a position where you are selling a good product that's easy to believe in. And for those of you that don't know, Star is a local, actually, I'd say maybe a South Louisiana, because I know you guys are in Lafayette and Lake Charles and all that. But they're a kind of a commercial, maybe light industrial air conditioning, refrigeration company, and they do really good work. And I know you guys take pride in your work, and it's easy to believe with a good team like that. And I think a lot of people don't succeed in sales because they're just in it for the money, or they're just in it for, they needed a job, so they got into something, and they don't really believe in their product, whatever it is they're selling. So it's good that you have that gift to see that you have to believe in what you're selling, because otherwise it's really hard to be genuine with people when you don't even want or need or like the product that you're selling too.
Absolutely. And Star is, it's very easy for me to sell with conviction, knowing that it's going to get delivered on the back end. So when I say we're going to maintain your equipment so it doesn't fail, and if it does, we'll replace it on our dime, not your dime. Man, people can't believe that, and they're kind of cautiously optimistic. And then a 5-ton unit goes out on their building, and next day or 2 days, we're installing a new 5-ton unit on their building, and they don't get a bill for it. Man, that's, it cost us money, but it's the best marketing that we could have, because that business owner is going to tell 4 other people, like, man, this is what I got, and this is what they did for me. And, man, that's better than any magazine article or newspaper article, or, so it's, I'm definitely thankful that whenever I sell something, I know for sure it is getting backed up 100%. And, I mean, you have ties to Star too, because your father-in-law and brother-in-law.
Yep.
I mean, Doug Ballard, your father-in-law, I think his employee number is like 40. Like he is like one of the original people at Star, and
he's not quitting anytime soon.
42 years or something he's been there. It's insane. And then Josh has been there since like high school, so that's like 16 years. And man, they're good folks. And I don't get to work with them much because they're on the project side and installing, bigger things, chillers and cooling towers, whereas I just sell maintenance, not projects. But the few times that I do get to go with Doug, it's a real treat. There are not many people like Douglas Ballard out there. I'll tell you
that is quite correct. So okay. So when you're trying to make a sale, do you normally deal with customers that already have a relationship with Star, or do you do any facilitating of any relationships that are new that, I guess, would that be outside sales? Do you do any of that?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. I mean, we have 100 vans rolling around Baton Rouge. This logo is pretty famous around Baton Rouge as far as just seeing it everywhere. So there are people that call in and they want to see who we are and what we do and if we can help. But then I also do cold calling where I pass a big building and I see a chiller on top of the roof and I'm like, man, we don't do that building. Let me find out who owns it or who runs it or who's the general manager. And then I call them and say, hey, I'm with Star Service. We've got an approach unlike anything you've ever seen before. We maintain your equipment so it doesn't fail. And if it does, we repair or replace it on our dime. And anybody that owns any type of major mechanical infrastructure is going to be interested in what I have to say.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. So when you're looking for opportunities, are you literally just like driving down the road looking at buildings, or maybe the better question is, how are you able to identify a good opportunity where you can go try to throw your hat into the ring and get that sale?
So that's what we call qualifying a prospect. So McDonald's is a bad prospect, right? It's a restaurant. You've got French fry grease going through exhaust fans, which is going out onto the units up on the roof. And, typically a McDonald's runs on low margins, right? High volume, low margins. So they're not making, a location making $5 million a day or whatever. So I'm not going to go, knock on a McDonald's door and ask to try to meet with them. But you pass a local credit union, where there's 3 or 4 branches and it's kind of small. It's like, man, this could be a potential opportunity. And then you call and you say, hey, who's your, CEO or COO, or you go on LinkedIn and start looking up the employees of that credit union and see if you see who the CEO is. And you just kind of work your way that way. See if you have anybody in common that you can try and network through. So that's just kind of one example, but so I guess it just starts with qualifying the prospect. If they spend money on their landscaping, then they'll probably spend money on their air conditioning. If they can't keep the front of their building looking nice, they're probably not going to keep something that's stuffed into a closet that they don't think about.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really cool. In my very limited time with sales, I have, or maybe even studying like marketing and sales, I realized pretty quickly that you really have to market to the right people. Just like you said with McDonald's, there's really no sense in trying to market or try to sell to somebody who's like totally uninterested, and I've learned that like literally, okay, not everyone is your customer for whatever particular product that you're selling or service or what have you. So I think more people need to realize and understand that. And if they would spend, because you can spend a lot of time just beating against the wall, right? You can spend a lot of energy and effort, and sometimes that pays off, sometimes it doesn't. But to me, if you can identify the people that are like chomping at the bit to get your product or to get your service, that's a better way of approaching it, like trying to find those people and get more direct to them.
Yeah, I mean, if you know anybody chomping at the bits for HVAC maintenance contracts, you let me know. I
just might.
It's
coming, actually. I got a few ideas, but that's another discussion.
There is not many people I know itching to talk to a sales guy. People want to talk to a sales guy like they want to have, an amputation of a body part. So, that's where my job comes in, of wanting to like really make them interested.
Right.
And that's why you throw out that I've got something unlike anything you've ever seen before. It's like, okay, this is why I should maybe give this guy a couple of minutes. Because there aren't a whole lot of people wanting to hear what I had to say.
Right.
And that's ultimately what makes me try to separate myself from other sales guys, because everybody's got sales guys calling them, trying to sell them something. So I'm trying to differentiate myself.
Right. Yeah. So I've learned, everybody is trying to sell something, right? And, where you're really going to get your traffic and your good sales is when you make an offer that's valuable enough where somebody's like, well, yeah, I would be literally stupid to not take your offer, but it depends on like how good the person is, to make that offer. And, I know Star's offering a good service, but, a guy like you to be able to communicate that as well. So what kind of like communication skills or people skills or whatever you want to call it, what would you say is your primary skill set for a sales job?
Man, if I had to pick one thing that's really helped me out is the disc profile.
Really?
Yes.
Really? I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, please elaborate on that.
So the disc profile is basically, it's a test like any other test. And Star paid for me to take this really expensive. I mean, it was like, I don't know, $300 disc profile. So it's like hundreds of questions, really in depth. And it told me that I was a DI. So the D is like your dominant, just your strong silent type, the alpha. You don't take insults very well, like you'll insult somebody back versus turning the other cheek. And, the I is influential. So most salespeople are high I's. I'm a high I.
What did you say?
The S, it's influential.
Okay. I can see that.
S, yeah. S is steady. So you're real even keeled. I think it's something like 90% of the world are S's.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe I just made that up, but I feel like it's like there's a lot of S's out there.
I'll Google it. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you get a fact checker on here.
You're right.
But and then the C is C stands for conscientious, but it's like very task oriented, perfectionist. So like the operations, so Star makes all their employees take a disc profile test, and all of our technicians are like DCs, like they're task oriented, and they're kind of all the alphas. And then I am a DI. I'm mostly I, but I've learned over the years to suppress that D, if you will. But I've also had customers call me up and yell at me, and I yell back.
Really? Wow.
Versus like my boss. I mean, it's only happened like twice when I just could no longer suppress,
I had to come out.
The D, yeah. Whereas my boss, Mr. Jimmy, who is worth his weight in gold in my life and has really helped me out, he is an IS. So somebody can call him and cuss him out. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's great. Absolutely. I mean, his blood pressure doesn't raise 1 point, whereas mine is like shooting through the roof, and it's hard for me to take that. So, that the disc profiles helped me to learn myself, because with that test that I took, they gave me like 40 pages, like no lie, 40 pages. And it was just like, here's what your profile means. Here's what the D means. You're D registered here, which means this. Here's how you like to be talked to from a D. Here's how you like to be talked to from an I. Here's how you like to be. And here's how it was insane. So much so that I handed it to my wife And she was just like, where was this at when we got married? You know, like, why didn't I have this 4 years ago, which was the time I started. We'd been married 4 years when I started at Star. But it helps me read customers. So when I walk in and the guy's like, hey, how you doing? And he talks real fast and he's kind of on high alert. It's like, this guy is a D or a C or a DC. And so I need to talk in bullet points. I need to be clear and concise. Now's not the time for, hey, man, you been fishing lately? He doesn't want to talk about that. He has got a schedule. He needs to keep that schedule. He wants to keep that schedule. And he is in a very, what can you do for me type of mood. Whereas if his desk is very neat and organized, chances are he's a DC, and it's, you know, get in, tell me what you want, what do you want from me, and get out. Whereas, you know, if it's a CEO and you walk in and their desk is kind of messy and they're like, hey, man, you want some coffee? How's it going? It's like, okay, I can probably let my guard down a little bit. I can ask this guy how his weekend was and kind of have more of a communication like you and I are having now.
Yeah. That's really cool.
So I didn't know that before the disc profile test. So
was there a point, like, did you, when you were doing your sales thing for your other companies before you took the disc test, did you see like a different result after the disc test once you started applying what you learned from it?
Yeah, I think I kind of found it out through trial and error, and I didn't know that it was the disc profile that I was kind of applying to those situations.
I got you. Yeah.
But another thing that I was going to say is self-awareness. So self-awareness, situational awareness. So if the person in front of me sitting at my desk at Capital One, you know, so this is now before I took the disc profile, I even knew what it was. But if that person comes in and they're giving me one-word answers, they don't want to talk about their weekend. You know, they want me to hurry up and do whatever it is they want me to do and let them get out of there. And so by me talking, it's just wasting their time, and they would rather me just not talk and help them and get them out of there. So I think I just kind of learned that. I didn't know that's what I was learning, but it was by trial and error. And then those people would come back because they knew, like, okay, this guy's not going to talk my ear off. He's going to get me in and get me out of here. And so
I got you. So you
were earning their
catering
business.
your communication to your customers.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just natural, right? If someone is talking to me in my language in the way that I need to be communicated to, then I'm more likely to try to facilitate that communication again.
Yeah, and whenever I make phone calls, you know, if I talk to the guy, and there's this one guy that I called, and he's Brett Burge service, you know, like he says 4 words in 1 second. It's like, I'm like, hey man, Brett Burge, real quick, I'm trying to set an appointment with you. You know, like, I talk fast. So however they talk and answer the phone is how I talk back to them.
Right.
Those, you know, just kind of that situational awareness thing. I've been with sales guys and they have no situational awareness, where we're surveying a church with the pastor and this guy's cussing the whole time, you know, and it's like, dude, what are you doing? You shouldn't be cussing anyway, but especially don't be cussing right now because you're going to lose me, this customer, you know? And that's terrible situational awareness.
Right, yeah.
So,
okay. So one of the reasons I wanted you on, Brett, to kind of talk about the sales gig is, you know, sales is a really hard job, or at least it can be hard until you get good at it and you learn to communicate like you have with a bunch of different types of people. But you know, and it's something that I thought about doing like years ago, but I guess I was kind of chicken. But one of the good things about sales, at least what I know about sales, is, you know, you're not really limited in your income. So if you're trying to, you know, be more financially stable, to me, one of the benefits of doing a sales job is that, you know, you can always get a sale. And if you're commission based, then you can, you know, the more sales that you get, the more money you earn, and you're not limited necessarily by a particular hourly, hourly rate or, so many hours. So, for me, the pros and cons of sales was like, I can, I'm not going to say make as much money as I want, but I can work hard and kind of be rewarded for the more hours that I put in. But there's also like the bad part that I didn't like at the time of, talking to people or calling people or whatever. Um, so what would you say are like the pros and cons of, or maybe your favorite things and your least favorite things about sales, maybe in general?
The you know the I think the pros have everything to do with the company that you're at and the whatever it is that you're selling. I mean, you talk to a brand new guy right out of the gate selling straight commission life insurance. I mean, he is hating his life. He is starving to death. Um,
Right.
there's 1,000 million insurance salesmen out there, and it's like you can spot those guys from a mile away. And so I think the pros for sales have everything to do with the company that you're at and what you're selling. So the pros for me at Star are great ownership, great delivery of the service that I sell. My hours are somewhat flexible. The cons for any sales job is you start over at zero, either 4 times a year or once every year, so it doesn't matter. I had a banner year last year, and I'm so thankful for that because a lot of people, didn't have banner years last year. But guess what? All of that went to zero December 31st at midnight.
Yeah.
And so now it's, what have you done for me lately? Last year was great, but we're moving on. And so there's just never any time to rest. It's like Tom Brady, whenever they ask him, what ring is his favorite? And he says the next one. And so that's kind of how it is in sales. Like, man, you had a good year last year. Like, man, I don't even remember last year. I'm in 2021 and I got a new goal to hit. Yeah. And I got, more money to try to make and pay more bills with. So
yeah, that's a really good point, Brett. I didn't really think about it from that aspect of it. You there's one year you have a really good year and it's like you almost think you can stop and celebrate, right? But then it's like, no, you got to get back on the phone or back to talking to your customers or whoever. So
you got to build the pipeline. It all takes time to sell, and yeah, it's you can never let your foot off the gas ever.
Yeah,
and that gets old.
Yeah, I could definitely see how that could get old. So I'm really glad you said that, man. I think that's a really helpful piece of it. But even if no one else on here gets something out of that, that gave me something to think about for sure. So what would you say, how long do you think it took you to get good at sales?
So yesterday,
the reason I'm saying that is like, let's say there's someone just starting out, maybe they want to, they're trying to get into a sales job, or maybe they're starting something, maybe it's their first job out of college, just something like that, and maybe they're a little unsure. So like, how long do you think would you tell somebody to like give themselves some slack or some grace or whatever you want to call it, before they like kind of hit their stride and start making more sales?
Well, I think it's different for everybody. I think that there are a lot of people in sales that have no business being in sales.
100% correct. Yes.
And I think that there is this misconception that like, oh, I can go be a salesman. I mean, you got people that are realtors, and I'm not trying to knock realtors, but how many realtors do you know? I mean, you can't throw a rock without hitting a realtor. And there are realtors that have no business being realtors. And so that's kind of how it is with sales, right? They are in sales, but it's just like, oh, well, I'll just go be a salesman. It's like, okay, well, if being a salesman's so easy, then
right.
do.
Yeah.
But so I think your psyche has to be right, because, man, if you go a while without making a sale, it can really mess with your head, and you can get in this deep downward spiral real quick, and it can mess with your psyche. And I think, man, I think you just, again, have to be coachable. So there are people probably that, if you're just getting into sales, that know more than you. You know, my boss, I mean, whenever I started at Star, I've been in sales for 9 years, but my sales manager, again, Mr. Jimmy, has been in sales for 30 years. And, man,
and
he
in the
knows
industry
more
in
than I
general
know.
too, right?
Yeah. And so he knows more than me. I don't know it all. And, you know, I'm not making any headway, and he's like, man, did you try this? And I'm like, no, I didn't even think about that, you know. Or so I think being coachable is a big deal. And yeah, I think just having a strong psyche and being coachable are probably the two biggest things. And I also think I think you should try to sell something. Like I don't know, if your mom and dad are, you know, if you're fresh out of college and your mom and dad, it's just like, try to sell that thing and see how you do, you know. And if you're having trouble with that, then you're probably not. And so, or you can learn from it, you know, and just try and sell.
Right.
I sold my father-in-law's boat. I sold his golf cart. I mean, I will sell something, whatever. I mean, I love selling. It is my favorite thing. And, you know, this laptop, I don't even know where it came from, but I might try and sell it after we're done with this talk. You know, I see $700 sitting right here in front of me. So, I sell for fun. I think about selling all the time, and how I can add value to somebody's life with something. So, you know, it's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. You know, I'm kind of learning that too. You know, how to. So, I mean, we talked about this. I'm in the gold and silver game, and you know, I think everyone needs some. You know, and I don't know if you need, like, you know, Scrooge McDuck levels, but you need to have something, right? So, trying to communicate that effectively is something that I've realized that it's a skill set, and I have to. You know, you have to educate people, and you have to learn how to educate, and you have to learn how to talk. And you know, a lot of people, I think they just jump into sales. Again, I'm not knocking realtors either, but to your point, there are, you know, a whole lot of them out there, right? Some of them are great, you know, and they're born for it, and some of them are not so great, and that's okay. You know, but I think there's a lot of people that are just trying something without realizing, like, it actually takes a lot of work. You know, you see the big commission check that a realtor gets, you know, and that's great, but you don't see, like, the skill set and the mastery, and, you know, meeting the, you know, figuring out what that person actually wants so you can show that particular house to that person. You know, I think there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, well, I'll just, you know, send them some listings, and, you know, and they'll just pick one if they want one. And whereas the people that are good, you know, and people like you that actually understand sales and enjoy it, you know, that it's a skill set, it's a mindset, it's a way of life, really. You know, it's different than what most people think about, I think, as like what a job should be.
Well, I think with realtors, you know, in general, so I've been in real estate school twice. So, and I get to take my test, and then it kind of hits reality that I'll have a license and I'll have to put it somewhere. And I just don't know that I'm ready to do that. But I mean, I look at realtor 100 times a day, and, you know, I bought and sold a couple of houses, and, you know, I just laugh at these descriptions of these houses, and I've made fun of them on Facebook, you know, a dozen or so times, and my realtor friends will you know, start tuning in. But, you know, when you have a description, like, it kills me when people put, they put the desirable, you know, X, right? So it's like they list whatever area of town or the neighborhood. It's like, dude, that neighborhood is not desirable, you know, like, quit putting desirable. Or I saw one that said, "This house is beautiful yet clean." Like,
I mean, that's good,
okay.
I guess, right?
Yeah, right. It's beautiful, but yet clean. So I just read stuff like that. That's one I read, and I'm just it's like, come on, man, you have one job to do.
So
But,
if you were to suggest to somebody what they could do to get a skill set, or to enhance their sales skill set, or to learn it, whatever, what would you advise somebody to do for that? Besides take the disc test, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I've had 3 or 4 people reach out to me and ask me that question, like, how would you recommend I get into sales? And I tell them, don't. Like, you're not going to make it. Like, if you're having to ask that question, you're too late,
Interesting.
That's how I feel. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it's I mean, I guess, like, are we talking like a 24-year-old, or are we talking like a 15-year-old?
Well, so, my big thing is, here's my dream, Brett. Okay. There's a lot of people that have untapped potential, untapped skill sets. There's a lot of people out there that could do, maybe they're in, I don't know, an accounting job, I'll just say, and maybe they hate it, and maybe they'd be really good at sales. So I feel like it's my life's mission to introduce them to sales and say, like, hey, you could, there's this out there, and if you learn this skill set, then you can be good at it. But if you don't do this, then you can't be good at it. And just to kind of wake people up to different possibilities. Because, like, for me, okay, the only options I was ever told was doctor, lawyer, engineer. Okay. And, like, literally that was it. It's like, if I wasn't one of those 3 things, and I would never amount to anything in life. Okay. But
who told you that?
My family. So, like,
Okay.
so, like,
all right. So not,
so,
right,
exactly.
like your friends or your guidance counselor or your teachers or.
Right. Well, okay. So, I don't know what guidance counselors are supposed to be like, but mine were just like, oh, so you're in the engineering field. Cool. Go take all your classes and don't fail. There was no guidance. Okay. So anyway, okay. So the reason I'm asking this question is, like, what if there's people that, like, they kind of have a sales bug, they just don't know how to develop it? That's kind of what I'm wanting to do. I want to give people opportunities and knowledge where they can go, like, just enhance their skill set. So, like, maybe if they just took the disc test, maybe they'd be great at sales, or, maybe they're in sales now and they're just not doing so hot because they're just missing something, or they need to learn to get out of sales, just kind of, you know what I'm saying? Just kind of figure out what they need to do with their own life.
Yeah. So funny thing, every job that I hear, as it relates to, I hear a disc letter. So when you talk about an accountant that maybe wants to be in sales, my mind is like, does not compute, because accountants are high C's. They're very task-oriented people. It's all about the numbers and putting in the numbers and getting out this certain, thing. And they could never be in sales. Like, I mean, I know 4 or 5 accountants, and they loathe salespeople, and so C's and I's are like oil and water.
Yeah.
But
think about it too, though. How many people out there are at a job that they're only working because that's all they knew to go do, and they hate it? And maybe it's because they're a D working an I job, or vice versa. I don't know what the letters are, but
sure.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
Maybe they're just stuck. So I'm trying to unstick people.
I gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess.
Yeah. No, I'm just talking.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is incredible, and that is a heck of a job, and that is part influencer, part guidance counselor, part
right.
just counselor, like a psychologist or something. So
well, yeah, I mean, I just know it happened to me, man. No one really gave me options or told me anything, but the big three. And it's like, here I am, almost 35, and I don't want people to like have to wait 35 years to get to the point where they can at least have options.
Sure. Yeah, but so I think you answered your own question. You had a yearning probably early on, probably well before 35, that you could possibly be a square peg in a round hole, and that you were unhappy being maybe in the role that you're in now, or you were built for something more. So I think other people that are in that role, they're doing what you're doing. Like I think, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so, like I was unhappy doing landscaping, and so I went back to school because I didn't want to do landscaping for the rest of my life, even though I did a couple years earlier. And so I just think people who do want something more they're doing something more. That makes sense. Like, I don't know. So,
well, no, that's encouraging,
I
because it's like, if you want to do something more, if you feel that rub, that, I don't know if I want to do this the rest of my life, or maybe I want to do my job, but I just feel like there's something else I could go do. Just go do it. Go try it,
Yeah. So I think you answered your own question. Like, I don't know that you can jar somebody to do it. I mean, maybe you can, but I think ultimately people are going to do it. They're only going to be able to take so much. Like, man, I cannot do this anymore. I need to go give this a shot. So.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. You gave me a lot to think about tonight, Brett. Good job. And what do you think? You want to do two more questions? I think at least two more would be pretty helpful. Who've been some of the big influencers, coaches, inspirational people that you have like looked up to or read their books or whatever? Who's been some of the big people that have helped you along the way or inspired you?
So that's easy. My current boss, Jimmy, and I tell him all the time, he's the best boss I've ever had. I think, he encourages me. He's always coaching me, and he is a guy that gets in my boat because he's been in that same boat. So he's not like a sales manager that beats me over the head like, you need to make more sales. You need to make more sales. He's like, hey man, how can I help you make more sales? What can we do to get you better prospects or get you more leads? What can I do to help you? And so, and then I read this book called Excellence Wins by Horst Schulze. He's the founder of the Ritz-Carlton.
Oh.
And so I pride myself on being like really good with customers. I always answer my phone or emails or get them where they need to go or get them with whatever they need. And I thought I was really good at that. And then I listened to Excellence Wins. And, the Ritz-Carlton, he talks about the Ritz-Carlton, and he's a German immigrant who all he wanted to do was be in hotels. And then he started the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Group. And he had all these stories about how, one of the stories is they had a couple on their honeymoon, and one of them lost their wedding ring. And he gives every employee of the Ritz-Carlton a $2,000 allowance to do whatever they want. So if you are at the front desk and they're like, how was your night last night, Mr. Paget? And you go, man, I didn't sleep well because the toilet was running the whole night. They'll be like, okay, we're going to get that toilet fixed, and let me treat you to a massage in our spa. And so that person has money to do that, to treat you to that massage. So this couple, one of them lost their wedding ring out in the sand, and 3 employees went and bought metal detectors with their, some of their money.
What?
And all night long, went up and down the whole beach and found this wedding ring for the guest.
Wow.
So there's literally like, he just tells like 100 stories like that.
Wow.
And so, man, I just finished this book, and there was a customer that called me, and they were like, man, one of your technicians accidentally left the roof hatch open last night. And I immediately was like, it stormed last night, as soon as she said that. And so she's like, so-and-so had to go up there and close it. Well, that so-and-so was the owner of the building. And she was like, oh, he got soaking wet because, still raining, and I got wet and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, look, I'll be right there. So I went and cleaned it up, but on my way, I stopped at Banana Republic, and I bought them new clothes. And
wow, that's awesome, man.
I'm not saying that to toot my own horn. I'm just saying, like, what would, me just cleaning this up. I mean, that's what I'm already supposed to do, right? Like one of our technicians, so I'm not doing anything extra by cleaning up this mess that I'm already, in my eyes, responsible for. So and it went a long way with like, man, we can't believe you did this.
Yeah.
And, and I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying, like, reading that book opened my eyes to like how much more I could be doing. And so,
yeah, man, that's awesome, dude.
Excellence wins.
That's the kind of stuff I'm learning about, like what separates the good from the great and the not so good from the good, just that extra step that you go above and beyond that you don't have to do. That's really cool. I'm going to check. You said Excellence Wins, right?
Yep.
Okay. We'll check that out. All right. So 2 more and we'll call it a night. So, do you have any other like side businesses or side gigs or any other income streams?
No, I've wanted to, but ultimately, like, Star has never told me this or what, but I just feel like I owe them, like all of my effort.
Right.
I don't know if that maybe it's stupid, but that's just kind of how I feel. Like,
no, well, that's what sets Star apart from a bunch of different companies is they, I know Star really cares about their people. They treat their people well, and and they get a guy like you who is dedicated to them because they're dedicated to you. It's just a rare thing that you find these days.
Yeah, I'm super thankful for them.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So I know you're a financially savvy guy. So, I'm all about, my life's purpose is to get people financially stable. So what would you say is I'm not going to say the biggest, but maybe the most important or the biggest or the easiest thing to get in the right direction? What would you say people need to start doing today to be more financially secure?
Spend less than you make.
It's pretty solid.
That's all I got. I mean, ask how many people are doing it. Like, if they honestly answered you, they would say that is not what we do. So I have a salary. Obviously, salespeople have a salary plus commission, but we live off of my salary. And there aren't many sales guys that do that. And so that's, we live on less, and my wife stays at home, but we live on less than I make. And there's a whole lot of freedom in that, when you get something unexpected, you get an unexpected bill, or you get a flat tire and you're like, man, how am I going to pay for this? Like, yeah, got this savings account over here with money.
There's a stat that I think it's like 70% of Americans cannot afford a $400 emergency expense.
I believe it, and I think the pandemic really exposed that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like, people thought that they had they had $500 in savings or whatever, or even they had Dave Ramsey says 3 to 6 months of expenses, but I think people found, dude, that's not even enough. I'm not saying you got to have a year's worth of expenses, but I think a lot of people found out that 3 to 6 months wasn't enough.
Absolutely.
And so I just think this pandemic has really shaped, or I hope it has shaped, how people view, cash on hand or having an emergency fund, and really just think like, man, if things go south for 6 months, or whatever, like, can I make it? And I kind of thought that way for years. Being in sales, it's like, man, I could have a lean month, or what happened if last year wasn't a good year? Like, I would be okay because I've saved. I've had many a good harvest, and I've saved for if there's ever a famine.
Right.
So I think just people pray to God for peace, and they ask God for peace in their life, and then they go put $5,000 on a credit card when they make $500 a month. And it's like, well, you're praying for peace, but you're not doing things to invite peace into your life,
Well said. Yeah.
And that's just financially. I'm not talking about anything else either.
Right. No doubt. Yeah. And for me, the other piece of it is, I think everybody has to have more than one income stream. Unless you have one big income stream, but like what really pushed me over the edge was like this year in the pandemic, if the government can come in and just like say nobody can work, sorry. It's like, whoa, you can only save so much, right? So to me, that's why I'm so passionate about it. Maybe you lose your job, or the government says you can't work for 6 months, but you at least have this other income stream. Maybe it's a trickle, maybe it's huge, but at least you have something. So to me, that's it's the savings, but also the other income streams than just your job.
Yeah. So again, I don't, but I have been in spots where I've had to bridge the gap, and I am a guy that will always work. Like, I am not afraid of work. And so it's like, man, if I got laid off, I would be trying to go find another job, but I'd also take this push mower, and I would be, I'd be pushing it around the neighborhood, or, leaving flyers to wash people's cars, or,
sure,
hey, I noticed that your fence is falling down. Let me, pay me, whatever, $100 plus material to fix your fence. I have all my own tools, or what. Like, I would find a way.
Yeah. And that's exactly why I wanted you to come on and talk about it, because like your skill set can be applied to literally anything. If you understand sales and you understand how to get people in touch with what they need and what they want, then it doesn't really matter who your employer is necessarily, because in a way you are selling a product to them. In a way, your job is your customer, because you have the skill set. So and that's why I wanted you to come talk about it, because I think you're more than qualified to discuss that, because that's the kind of guy you are.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know that that's sales as much as I got a wife and kids that need food and enjoy flushing a toilet. So it's, we need that water to work, and we need the electricity on, and so it no longer becomes about sales as much as it does about necessities.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, if I get laid off, well, okay, I've got this. Just because I have this emergency fund doesn't mean I want to use it. I want to go try and find income as soon as possible. And so while I'm applying for these jobs, I'm going to be trying to make money, as best I know how. So I guess that's sort of, I don't have another income stream, but I would find another one very
Right,
quickly
sure.
if I had to, by
Right.
any means necessary.
Right. But your point is still absolutely valid. You know, people need to you need to start with living below your means. You know, don't spend every bit you make. And you know, I kind of realized this in my weight loss journey. Like I would always say, like, oh, I deserve this, or I haven't had that in a while. And you know, people do that with food, but people do that with, you know, shiny things disorder as well, where they're like, oh, well, that's just this one little thing. It's just this $20. It's just this $40. And then before you know it, you got $5,000 of credit card debt. You know.
So I bought a black Tahoe in 2005, and my dad told me not to buy it. I mean, he told me 100 times not to buy this Tahoe, and I bought it, and I took a loan out, and shortly thereafter, a couple of years after, gas hit $4 a gallon. That was the first time gas had ever hit $4 a gallon. I mean, gas just went through the roof.
Yeah.
So I had a $400 Tahoe note. I had a $700 a month gas note, if you will.
$700.
Yep, because it was on 35s and it was a V8, and I just drove all the time. And then my insurance was about $230 a month. So you do the math. It was a house note to keep this thing on the road every month. And I was in school. I was going to Bethany, and I had done the internship, and then I was going to school. And I just remember thinking, like, I will never be in this spot again, where, like, I am paying everything I've got and even going into debt to be in this situation. And I think that situation, thankfully, it was in the scope of my life, was very small, but that was where that was kind of where my mindset shifted of like, I will not ever buy anything that I can't afford again, if I can help it. And so far I've been able to help it.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's yeah, it's fun. I'm laughing because, you know, stupid young people, right? I mean, you know, young people, you know, your dad told you, and you didn't listen. And I've done the same thing, you know. It's just like, you know, sometimes you just got to learn from life hitting you in the face, right?
Yeah, and that's what I'm thankful that wasn't even that big of a deal, you know.
Right.
I mean, in that moment in my life, it was a big deal, but overall, I'm glad that I learned that lesson then, instead of buying a, you know, $500,000 house I couldn't afford, or you know, $100,000, whatever, I don't know, name it. I bought a $20,000 vehicle that I couldn't afford, and so anyway, I'm glad I got that one out of the way.
Yeah, right. Cool. Well, Brett, thanks a lot for coming on, man. You're giving me a good bit to think about for sure. So I know you're probably giving, you know, a good bit for a lot of other people. So thank you for coming on and, you know, sharing your wisdom of the ages.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's what it's called, but I appreciate, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it, man. So good night, man. Good night, everybody. See you later.
All right. See ya.